Doamna doctor, să înțeleg că noi lucrăm greșit. Care este, de fapt, originalul și anume versiunea corectă?
Originalul este cea care coordonează. Deci originalul este că noi trebuie să înțelegem că cea care coordonează este emisfera dreaptă. Pentru că ea răspunde de controlul emoțional, o să vedeți. Adică controlează, armonizează, de fapt, reglează haosul emoțional produs de emisfera stângă. Deci versiunea corectă este că noi trebuie să începem să lucrăm cu emisfera dreaptă, nu cu emisfera stângă, că v-am spus că noi suntem dreptaci, deci lucrăm cu stânga. Cu alte cuvinte, cei care se nasc sunt stângaci, ei sunt versiunea corectă. Și știți ce se întâmplă? Domnul cameraman mi-a făcut semn că dânsul este, felicitări. Știți ce facem noi în primele clase? Învățăm să lucreze cu dreapta. Ceea ce nu este bine. Adică, știți, practic ei sunt reperul. Ar trebui toți să învățăm să scriem cu stânga. Pentru că, apropo, acesta este un lucru să-ți dezvolți emisfera dreaptă. Și practic, dacă noi am intrat să lucrăm, să dezvoltăm, că știți cum e, dacă lucrezi mereu dezvolți asta, să lucrăm cu emisfera dreaptă, noi ne-am scoate de sub această dependență emoțională a emisferei stângi. Ăsta ar fi pasul, de fapt. Mai mult, dacă lucrăm cu emisfera dreaptă și deci o dezvoltăm că este nefolosită, noi putem chiar să controlăm universul interior. Deci sănătatea noastră, dar să intrăm în legătură cu întregul univers cosmic. Deci, practic, noi ne-am conectat la toate celelalte universuri, pentru că noi avem așa. E universul interior care înseamnă corpul nostru, pe care, de fapt, îl studiază medicul, că medicul se ocupă și cu corpul uman, adică el, de fapt, cu asta se ocupă. După aia, universul nostru, din jurul nostru, care înseamnă realitatea noastră, dar mai avem și universul cosmic. Noi suntem conectați la toate. Mai este și universul Pământului, că stăm și pe Pământ. Și Pământul e un adevărat univers, planeta în sine, știți? Deci noi, practic, suntem așa, niște piese într-o conexiune foarte mare. Cu alte cuvinte, creierul și în special emisfera dreaptă și sufletul nostru sunt conectate cu un fel de sistem nervos al Pământului, că și Pământul are un fel de sistem nervos. Pământul este conectat cu sistemul nervos al Universului apoi și respectiv cu corpul energetic infinit al întregii creații. Această conexiune exterioară cu Universul este similară și celei interioare, cu corpul individual. De aceea noi putem introduce schimbări în Universul exterior, la fel cum procedăm intern cu propriul corp. Deci, practic, ființele umane sunt mult mai complexe, infinit mai complexe decât am putea să ne închipuim vreodată. Și noi lucrăm așa la un potențial infim. Suntem, nu știu cum să vă spun, suntem un fel de ființe extraordinare și folosim așa, a 1000 parte din cât putem. Ca să înțelegeți la ce nivel lucrăm. Motivul pentru care oamenii moderni nu mai fac acest lucru este că secole la rând copiii au crescut cu convingerea că suntem limitați. Deci noi practic nu mai știm de acest potențial pe care îl avem, noi am ajuns la concluzia că nu putem. Și atunci creăm din ce putem. Și putem foarte puțin. Adică lucrăm cu emisfera stângă. Și noi credem că asta e maxim. Și după aia ne mirăm de ce nu ne iese, că nu ne place. Că de plăcut nu ne place. Și atunci pasul următor este să vedem că de fapt ne-am autolimitat și să începem să ne conectăm la emisfera dreaptă, să vedem cum să o dezvoltăm, să lucrăm cu ea, pentru că toate școlile noastre, toată educația noastră, din clasa 1 până târziu, nu face decât să lucreze cu emisfera stângă. Deci noi, practic, suntem formați în societate numai de emisfera dreaptă, nu se ocupă nimeni. Înțelegeți ce vreau să... Medicina holistică a început acum să atragă atenția asupra importanței emisferei drepte. Umanitatea, practic, a acceptat cumva convențional, la nivel de grup, aceste limitări, prin intermediul ADN-ului său, adică ne-am impregnat acest ok, că atâta suntem noi limitați în ADN-ul nostru, ca așa, ca o chestie bătută în cuie, dar nu numai la nivelul ADN-ului, cât și la nivel spiritual, mental, emoțional și fizic. Suntem cumva blocați, da? În această convingere că atâta putem. Suntem nemulțumiți și blocați. Și reprezintă, practic, cel mai mare blocaj al umanității. Acum, haideți să vedem, pentru că trebuie să știți că în lume, la ora asta, sunt mai mulți medici holistici care lucrează deja cu pacienții lor din perspectiva emisferei drepte. Și vreau să-mi prezint un filmuleț despre medici holistici, o să vedeți la diverse nivele care lucrează deja, să zicem, la nivel al emisferei drepte, dar și la nivelul unei persoane care poate să vindece. Pentru că, de fapt, noi, la ora asta, medicii care lucrează decât din emisfera stângă, nu vindecă.
Humans are amazingly adaptable. Physically, we are capable of living anywhere and doing almost anything. But we still underestimate the power of our minds. Natural mystery looks at our secret lives and explores the extraordinary control of mind over matter. Rosa Ervaso is about to have a painful operation involving surgery on her varicose veins. But she's not going to be given any anesthetic. She's following the advice of her surgeon in southern Spain. Dr. Escudero asks a lot of his patients. He gives them complete responsibility for their own well-being and assures each that as long as they believe they will feel no pain, then, even as his scalpel slices away at their flesh, they feel no pain.
Cuéntanos algo.
Me olvido.
Es importante.
Ay, doctor Escudero.
Es importante.
Rosa is not hypnotized. She chats away with the theatre staff while her veins are being exposed, secure in the hands of a man who insists that the secret of his technique is very simple, just positive thinking. Ángel Escudero works in Valencia, where he was trained as a conventional surgeon. But he was so impressed by several early examples of apparent self-healing that he set up his own clinic to teach what he describes as noisy therapy, which means healing by thinking. It is here that he teaches all patients how to use his special therapy. The first step is a dress rehearsal, in which they learn how to control the stress of being in the theatre. And as one of the first signs of anxiety is a dry mouth, Dr. Escudero insists that they always have a good supply of saliva. If the mouth is moist, he believes, the body can be persuaded that it is not afraid and can act accordingly.
¿Qué sensación? La notas claramente.
The second step is to teach them how to control pain. He persuades Rosa that her right arm is slowly losing its feeling, then he sticks a needle right through it. Amazingly, she feels nothing. She removes the needle herself and tries piercing her own arm. And she succeeds, apparently without discomfort. Escudero suggests that she will enjoy the same protection during her entire operation.
You don't have to repeat this. Just keep in your mind all the time what I'm telling you. All my body, from my head to my toes, is numb.
That is the full extent of her preparation for surgery. The following day, Rosa has her legs sliced open in the theatre, without anesthesia. And apparently, without pain. Rosa is just one of many patients all over the world, now being given a dramatic new choice. Fire inflames us, producing some of the most painful of all injuries, whose victims often die not from their burns, but from shock. But even those damaged beyond conventional medical care respond remarkably well to simple suggestion. At the medical school in New Orleans, they found that hypnosis provides a vital form of first aid in the emergency treatment of severe burns. Patients who are hypnotized immediately suffer less pain, have fewer post-operative infections, and heal faster than those who are simply anesthetized.
The person who's been in an explosion or is hurting and is injured is already in a trance equivalent state. They're completely focused, they're looking for help, and it's, I say, I'm Dr. Ewan, I can help you where you do what I say.
Dr. Ewan finds that if he can get to a patient within 2 hours of a burn, they are far more suggestible. And if he can convince them that what they are experiencing is not hot and painful, but cool and comfortable, then their wounds are far less inflamed and the resulting damage much less severe.
If the patient agrees, he will do what I say without testing it through his logical thinking processes. That's the equivalent of a hypnotic induction.
And that is a condition Dr. Ewan has used to huge advantage in some of his most successful treatments of severely burned patients. Patients such as Sammy Locicero. Sammy is a Vietnam War veteran, newly married and working as an electrician. He set out one day from his suburban home in New Orleans to repair a faulty transformer in a factory outside the city. That job changed the entire course of his life. What he found there was a device that wasn't working. No voltage passed through it. So he sidled carefully beneath to take a closer look and discovered that the problem was a simple one. But that was when he got careless. He arched his back to come out and touched the terminals.
It hit me in the back of the head, it arced to me, and it put my face against the steel plate, and it just kept arcing. I couldn't get off.
And his colleagues couldn't help him. 13,000 volts were flowing through his body, and one touch would have drawn them into the circuit as well. Instead, he had to wait while they ran several hundred yards to find a rope that they could put over his feet to pull him free. And then he passed out. He recovered briefly on the way to the hospital to learn that he was severely burned and almost unrecognizable.
I had a t-shirt on, it burned off. I had a chain with a St. Christopher medal, it burned, completely melted.
He could see very little, but hear everything people in the ambulance were saying, including how terrible he smelled and how certain he was to die. Then Sammy passed out again and had his first lucky break. The nearest hospital was at the New Orleans Medical School, where he was received by one of the world's leading specialists in the emergency treatment of severe burns.
Sammy was very, very badly injured and very badly burned. And he had 60% of his body burned. And really, he looked cooked.
And that was also when Dabney Ewan began his process of suggestion, inserting himself into Sammy's spontaneous pain-induced trance, establishing rapport, and teaching him step by step how to control his pain. That early hypnotic first aid helped inhibit shock and tissue damage. It turned potentially lethal third-degree burns into treatable second-degree injuries. It also saved Sammy from the scarring and disfigurement such wounds would certainly have produced.
He taught me to let my subconscious mind control my body. He said, "You're gonna be okay, you're gonna make it, you got the strength, you can do it." That's what he used to say, you can do it. Your mind can do miracles.
The answer, perhaps, is that all pain is in the brain. The body may be wounded, but the head hurts. And somewhere between the two, suggestion and hypnosis seem to set up a barrier to such sensation.
I now want you to imagine that you are getting out of the boat and are walking on a small sand beach. You lie down and just start playing.
At Charing Cross Hospital in London, Dr. John Williams and his assistants are exploring the possibility that we often practice self-hypnosis, protecting ourselves from some kinds of pain.
What we're actually trying to show is whether hypnosis can actually influence the perception of pain. A lot of people may be in a lot of pain, and if we can actually use their own ability to alter the perception of pain, then that can be beneficial to them in their everyday lives.
The patient in this experiment is receiving a series of electric pulses to one finger. Some are strong enough to be painful. Her task is to press a button whenever it hurts, and to keep on doing this as she listens to an hypnotic suggestion that she is losing sensation in that hand. Her body continues to be stimulated in a painful way, but her mind is being told that it doesn't hurt, and after a while, it doesn't. She stops pressing the pain button. Is she simply ignoring the pain, or does hypnosis actually stop painful signals from reaching the brain at all? Her quiet brainwave pattern suggests the latter, but many scientists still have doubts about hypnosis.
What science is always looking for is an explanation. And because it's so difficult to come up with objective data to prove that hypnosis is the cause, then that is, I would argue, the main reason why it hasn't been used.
The connection between pain and suggestion may finally have been revealed at the University of Montreal in Canada. Here they seem to have found hard evidence for the existence of hypnosis.
Just to make sure that your head will stay still during this.
Some scientists suspect that patients who seem to be hypnotized are just pretending, or just doing what he expects them to do. But the new evidence comes from a positron emission tomography device, better known as a PET scanner. This is a sort of subatomic X-ray that can detect blood flow in a subject and show which parts of the brain are working hardest at any particular moment. The scanner works best with a radioactive tracer, so each subject is fitted with an intravenous line that feeds such a marker directly into their bloodstream.
Throughout the scan, so close your eyes. And I just want you to...
Dr. Rainville is not a hypnotist. All he does is to read from a prepared script that provides a gentle suggestion to help subjects relax.
At a certain moment, however, your eyes will be so tired, so heavy, that you won't be able to keep them open any longer. And it will close. It will simply close.
And as he speaks, the device produces a three-dimensional picture of her brain.
The use of the PET scanner allows us to see what physiological change occur in the brain after we induce or during the induction of hypnosis.
As a measure of the depth of her hypnosis, Dr. Rainville puts the subject's hand into water so hot it would normally be too painful to touch, and he watches to see what response this produces in the brain scan.
Okay, so this is the anatomical image of the brain of the subjects. And when we induced hypnosis, what we found was large regions of activation in the occipital lobe.
The pictures on the left, taken before hypnosis, show no activity whatsoever. The pictures on the right show that pain is being perceived mainly in a small area of the brain, here colored in red. This stops being stimulated as the patient accepts the hypnotic suggestion that she feels no pain.
4, 3, 2.
Hypnosis is not just pretense. Something in the brain actually changes under its influence.
There is a real physiological change during hypnosis, and our data, I think, strongly support the use of hypnosis to relieve pain.
It becomes clear that pain is in the brain, not the body, and it can be dealt with by the mind alone. It is also plain that hypnosis makes an effective connection between our mind and our body, and this bridge gives us the chance to do extraordinary things.
Everyone can be hypnotized, but some people can't be hypnotized easily. When people see people up on the stage, they think to themselves, well, that couldn't be me. I can't be made to bark like a dog or squawk like a chicken. They can, but maybe not as easily as those people on stage. Everybody can be hypnotized. It's only a question of what techniques are necessary for that to occur.
Robert Farago believes hypnosis works because right from the moment of birth, the learning centers in our brains are open to suggestions from other people.
Okay, close your eyes and imagine that your right hand is a very powerful magnet and your left hand is a piece of metal. My job as a hypnotist is to establish dominance over my clients, over my subjects, and to get them to do what I tell them to do. Now, if they are properly hypnotized, I can take control of their reactive mind, their subconscious, so that they cannot consciously resist what I tell them to do. So if they're hypnotized and I say every time I look at my watch, you look at yours, then they'll do it. Even if they don't want to. Even if they think it's stupid and silly, then they will do it. And in the same sense, I can say every time the phone rings, you don't pick up a cigarette. You stay calm and relaxed. So I get control over their mind and I can program them as they want to be programmed.
With a series of rhythmic and repetitive instructions, he appeals to the unconscious part of a patient's brain. She doesn't go to sleep. She doesn't lose consciousness, but does become open to his suggestion that she can take control over her own problems.
Dragi telespectatori, emisiunea noastră a ajuns la final. Vă mulțumim pentru atenție. Până data viitoare, să aveți armonie în suflet.
Să fiți credincioși și sănătoși.